Please be my daddy, Santa. Those were the words I saw written on the crumpled piece of paper my son gave Santa. Words that stunned the man in the Santa suit like a punch straight to his heart. And the worst part, I had no idea he wrote those, that it made me bend over to read it properly. I was shocked. I could not believe my eyes. My 6-year-old had already learned too much about loneliness. His name is Hikaru. Mine is Sora Itsuki. And this moment, was the beginning of a Christmas I never expected. The company hall glowed with warm golden lights and fake snow. Children ran between tables, their laughter rising above the soft Christmas music. Parents chatted, cameras flashed, and the smell of cinnamon cookies filled the air. I stood near the corner. Every December, my workplace held a Christmas party and encouraged everyone to bring their kids. That was the only reason I could afford to give Hikaru something festive, even if it wasn't much. I watched my son walk toward the volunteer Santa, the same Santa who came every year, the one the whole city adored. I didn't know who he was. No one did. People always whispered that he must have been someone important, because the charity he ran every Christmas was massive. Hikaru clutched a folded letter in his tiny hands. He'd rewritten that letter 5 times at home. And when he finally reached Santa, he climbed onto his lap as if he'd been waiting his whole life for this exact moment. My heart squeezed. Santa took the letter gently, the bells on his glove jingling as he unfolded it. I stood beside them. I didn't know what was inside, but I'd seen Hikaru crying while writing it. I'd heard him whispering to himself, "Maybe this year, maybe Santa will hear me." But I didn't expect what came next. Santa's entire body went still. His breath caught, and his eyes froze on the first line. "Please be my daddy, Santa." My chest tightened painfully. Santa blinked, stunned, and continued reading. "Kids in school laugh at me because I don't have a daddy. Papa works too hard. Papa is tired. Papa cries when he thinks I'm sleeping. I want to believe in Christmas again. Please give me a daddy." I swallowed hard, shame burning in my throat. I hadn't known he wrote that last part. Around us, laughter continued, music played, lights sparkled. But in that small space where Santa held the letter, everything felt silent. Painfully silent. Before I could stop it, Hikaru slid off Santa's lap, grabbed his gloved hand, and tugged with the confidence only a hurting child could have. "Come," he said loudly. "Santa, come meet my papa." My stomach twisted. "Hikaru, no. Please." But he was already pointing at me to the stunned Santa. Santa slowly removed his beard, and my breath caught when I recognized him. Katsuragi Norin, my CEO. A man known for being quiet, calm, almost unreachable. I had seen him from afar a handful of times, always surrounded by workers giving him space, as if he lived on a different level of life entirely. I never imagined he'd be the one in the red suit. "Mr. Katsuragi?" I whispered, horrified and embarrassed down to my bones. He gave a small nod. His eyes still held the weight of the letter. Hikaru looked up at him with trembling hope. "He read my letter, Papa." Santa read it. "He will be my daddy, right?" "He will." "Hikaru." I grabbed his shoulders quickly. "Don't say things like that. Apologize." He jerked away from my hands, eyes filling with tears and hurt. "You don't want me to have a family," he shouted. "You don't want me to have a daddy at all." My chest cracked open. "Hikaru, please." But he ran. Again. Straight through the crowd. I chased after him, calling his name, my breath shaking, fear clawing up my spine. Not again. God, not again. Last year, he'd run out into the snow after a holiday disappointment, and I found him frozen behind a bench, whispering that Santa didn't grant his wish. I couldn't relive that. "Hikaru." My voice broke as I pushed through the double doors and burst into the snow. "Hikaru, please." And then I saw him, standing near the parking lot, hugging himself, small and shaking. I ran to him and dropped to my knees. "Oh God, Hikaru, don't run like that. Don't scare me." He collapsed into my arms immediately, crying so hard he hiccuped. "I'm sorry. I just want someone to love us. I just want a family." His tiny voice cracked. My heart nearly shattered. I hugged him tighter. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're not alone. You'll never be alone." Footsteps crunched behind us. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Norin. He stood a few steps away, breathing hard, as if he'd run after us too. Hikaru lifted his head, face wet and trembling. "Santa, I'm sorry, don't be mad at Papa or me." Norin slowly knelt down, like a man who saw a hurting child. "I'm not mad," he he said softly. Not at you. Not at your papa. His voice. It felt warmer than any of the lights behind us. Hikaru sniffled. Will you be my daddy, Santa? I froze. Noren's eyes lifted to mine. And something in that look, something deep, something unreadable, something almost dangerous in its intensity, made my breath stop. He opened his mouth to answer. But behind us, the party doors slammed open and someone shouted. Mr. Katsuragi. Urgent call from headquarters. You're needed immediately. Noren shut his eyes for a moment, as if he hated the interruption, as if something important had just been pulled away from him. Then he stood. He looked at Hikaru, at me, at the crumpled letter still crushed in his hand. And he said quietly, Sora, this conversation isn't over. I felt my pulse stutter. He turned and walked back toward the building. Before the doors closed, he looked back one last time. The doors shut, and I stood there holding my crying son, realizing that maybe, just maybe, this Christmas was about to become the most dangerous one of my life. The man who walked back into the building wasn't just my CEO anymore. His last words kept echoing in my chest. This conversation isn't over. But I had no idea what conversation he meant. The one about Hikaru's letter? The one about being a father figure? The one about me, and the things he saw in my eyes? I didn't know. And the not knowing, that was what scared me the most. Hikaru fell asleep in the bus before we even reached our stop. His small hand clung to my coat. His eyelashes were still wet. His breathing uneven from earlier tears. I watched him, my heart twisting with guilt and helpless love. I'm sorry, I whispered into his hair. I'm trying, Hikaru. I'm really trying. But trying had never been enough. Not for his wish. Not for rent. Not for food. Not for the bills waiting like hungry wolves in my mailbox. And definitely not for the father-shaped emptiness in my son's life. As the bus rattled through the cold night, I couldn't help replaying everything. The way Hikaru ran, shaking and terrified. The way Noren knelt beside him. The way he said my name. Sora. No one said my name like that. Soft. Careful. Like it meant something. I shook the thought away. He was my boss. A wealthy man with more responsibilities than I could imagine. He wasn't going to get involved in our lives. No matter what he said. Our apartment was small, cold, and smelled faintly of old wood. The heater barely worked. The walls were thin. But it was all I could afford. I carried Hikaru inside, tucked him into his futon, and sat beside him for a long time. The moonlight coming through the window painted him in soft silver. He looked peaceful. Almost. But I knew his heart wasn't peaceful at all. And that hurt more than anything. After a while, I stood up and quietly prepared the few groceries we had left. Tomorrow would be another long shift. Another day of pretending everything was fine. Another day of watching Hikaru try to smile through pain. I barely slept 2 hours. Work clothes. Rushed breakfast. Trying to make Hikaru laugh even a little. But he was quiet. Too quiet. His eyes were puffy, his shoulders small and tense. At the door, he tugged on my sleeve. Papa, do you think Santa hated my letter? My heart cracked. No, I whispered. He didn't. Then why did you pull me away? My throat tightened. Because I didn't want you to get hurt. But I'm already hurt, he whispered. Papa, I just want someone to stay. That broke me in a way nothing else ever had. I pulled him into a tight hug. I'm here, I whispered against his hair. I'm staying. Always. But a child doesn't want only that. A child wants more. A family. A home with laughter. A place where love doesn't feel thin and breakable. He pulled away slowly. Okay, he whispered. I believe you. But his eyes. They didn't shine the way they used to. The morning was busy. Customers. Deliveries. Emails. Tasks piling up. I forced myself to focus, to breathe, to keep moving. But my chest stayed heavy. Like something unseen was pressing down on it. Around lunch, I felt a strange disturbance in the air. Almost like something left the room for a moment. Quiet murmurs spread among coworkers. I heard he's coming. Why would he come to this department? Did something happen? I didn't pay much attention. Not until I saw him. Walking through the hallway. My heart stopped. Katsuragi Noren. No Santa suit today. Just a black coat dusted with snow. Gloves. Sharp, unreadable eyes scanning the room. He looked like winter in human form. And he was holding something in his hand. A large box wrapped in silver paper. He stopped right in front of me. Everyone went silent. Sora, he said softly. Do you have a moment? My stomach flipped. I'm working right now, sir. This won't take long. I couldn't breathe. He handed me the silver box. For Hikaru, he said. I know he must be upset after last night. At his age, pain feels bigger than the whole world. My heart clenched. Norin continued. I read his letter again this morning. I froze. He didn't ask for toys, he said quietly. Not sweets. Not games. He asked for something no child should have to beg for. I stared at the floor, ashamed. I'm sorry he bothered you, I whispered. He just wants something I can't give him. No, Norin said firmly. You've given him everything you could. Sometimes life takes what we can't replace. He paused. And sometimes it gives us things we didn't expect. I looked up slowly. His eyes. They weren't cold like before. They were warm. Focused. Almost gentle. Sir, why are you doing this? I asked quietly. He took a slow breath. Because Hikaru's letter wasn't just a wish, he said. It was a cry for help. My hands trembled around the box. And because, he added, voice lowering, I couldn't stop thinking about the way he cried and the way you held him. The way you looked at him, like he's your whole world. My chest tightened painfully. I don't want him to feel alone, Norin said. Not at Christmas. Not ever. I swallowed, unable to speak. Then, he said the one thing I never expected to hear. Let me try. I blinked. Try what? He held my gaze, steady and serious, as if this decision was already made inside him. Let me try being there, he said softly. For him. My pulse jumped. My breath caught. My entire world tilted. And before I could ask what he meant, before I could even gather my thoughts, he leaned in slightly and whispered, and maybe if you'll let me for you too. My heart stopped. Literally stopped. The room spun. And that was when a coworker rushed over, breathless, panicked. Mr. Katsuragi, there's an emergency with the charity shipment. They need you now. Norin's jaw tightened. Again, another interruption. Another moment stolen. He stepped back, eyes still locked on mine. We're not done, he said quietly. Not even close. Then he turned and walked away, coat swaying behind him like a dark shadow of winter, leaving me standing in the middle of the hallway, holding Hikaru's gift, trying not to collapse. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. The silver box felt heavier than it should, as if it carried more than a present, more than a gesture, more than him. I pressed it against my chest, trying to breathe, trying to ground myself before my knees gave out on the spot. What was he saying? What was he implying? For him. And maybe for you too. My heart wasn't prepared for that. My life wasn't built for that. And yet, something warm flickered in the emptiness inside me. Something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I hated it. Hope destroyed. Hope abandoned. Hope made Hikaru cry in his sleep. And hope, the dangerous, trembling kind, was now shaped like Katsuragi Norin. I didn't see him again for the rest of the day. But everyone else did. The office buzzed like a shaken beehive. He went straight to the logistics floor, looked furious. I've never seen him that intense before. Someone said he personally carried boxes to the trucks. Can you imagine? He asked for Sora earlier. What did he need from you? I mumbled excuses. I hid. My hands shook every time someone said his name. At break time, I opened the break room window and let the freezing wind slap my face just to wake me up. I didn't understand anything anymore. Why would a man like him, rich, powerful, unreachable, look at my son with that kind of softness? Why would he say he wanted to try being there? Why would he look at me like that? Why me? Why us? My head felt too full, my chest too tight. When the shift finally ended, I rushed to Hikaru's school, clutching the silver box as if it were my lifeline. Hikaru waited near the gate, small hands tucked into his sleeves, his breath misting the air like tiny ghosts. His face lit up the moment he saw me. Papa! For a moment, everything else vanished. I crouched and hugged him tight. How was school? He shrugged against my coat. Okay. A small voice. A tired one. Too adult for 6 years old. I pulled back and smiled gently. I have something for you. His eyes widened a little, confused, cautious. I handed him the silver box. It's from Santa. He froze. His little fingers trembled where they touched the wrapping. Oh, really? Yes. He stared at it for a long moment before whispering. But I thought I made Santa sad. My throat tightened painfully. You didn't, I said softly. You just told the truth. He bit his lip, then opened the box. And when he did, the faint winter sunlight seemed to brighten. Inside was a handmade plush deer with tiny antlers and warm button eyes. Soft, beautifully sewn, delicate. I didn't know toys could feel human. A small note lay beside it. Hikaru read it slowly, lips moving, eyes widening. What does it say? I asked quietly. He lifted it and whispered. For when you feel alone. You're not. Santa. My heart broke cleanly in half. Hikaru hugged the toy to his chest so tightly I heard the soft fabric crinkle. He didn't hate my letter, Hikaru breathed. He didn't leave. He's still here. His voice cracked on the last word. I knelt, touched his cheek. No one is leaving, I whispered. Not Santa. And not me. Hikaru looked up at me with a tiny, trembling smile. It had been so long since I'd seen that expression. Later, as we walked home through the snow, Hikaru suddenly said, Papa. Yes. Do you think Santa will come again? I hesitated. My breath fogged heavily in the cold air. I don't know, I answered honestly. But I think he wants to. Hikaru nodded slowly, clutching the plush deer like a fragile miracle. Okay, he whispered. I'll wait. His innocence stabbed at me. I wasn't sure if I should pray Norin would come back, or beg the universe that he wouldn't, because both possibilities terrified me. When we got home, I made dinner, simple rice porridge. Hikaru sat on the futon, humming quietly to the plush deer, stroking its antlers as if afraid it might disappear. And I watched him, heart softening and breaking all at once. I didn't hear the knock at first. Not until it came again. Firm, steady. My heart stopped. No one visited us. No one even knew our address except school staff. I wiped my hands, my chest tightening with dread. Hikaru looked up. Papa. Who is it? I don't know. I opened the door and froze so hard I forgot how to breathe. Snowflakes drifted around him. His coat was darker than the night behind him. His breath misted in the cold. Katsuragi Norin stood at my door, looking straight at me, looking like he belonged nowhere else. I'm sorry for coming unannounced, he said quietly. But I couldn't leave things the way they were. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Behind me, Hikaru gasped. Santa. Norin's eyes softened instantly. Hikaru. The way he said his name. God. Without waiting, Hikaru ran to him, crashing into his legs in a small, fierce hug. And Norin, the CEO everyone feared, the man people worshipped from afar, dropped to one knee and hugged him back carefully, tenderly, like Hikaru was something precious. I missed you, Hikaru whispered. Norin pulled back, brushed a tear from Hikaru's cheek with a gloved thumb. I missed you too. My heart clenched so hard it hurt. He stood again, facing me. His voice lowered. Sora, may I come in? The cold rushed around my ankles. Hikaru looked between us, hopeful, shining. And I didn't know whether I was opening the door or falling, but I stepped aside. Yes, I whispered. Norin walked in. And with him, something dangerous, fragile, and unbearably warm crossed our threshold. Something that felt a lot like the beginning of a story. I wasn't ready, and yet desperately needed to hear. Norin stepped into our tiny apartment as if he were entering a place he'd been searching for without knowing it. He looked around, quietly, respectfully, taking in the simple walls, the thin curtains, the tiny heater rattling in the corner. But there was no judgment in his eyes. None. Only something soft, something warm, and something that made my chest feel too tight. Hikaru tugged on his coat. Santa, come sit. Papa made porridge. It's not a Christmas feast, but it's yummy. Norin smiled, a small but real smile. I'd be honored. He sat at our little table, knees almost touching mine because the space was so small. Hikaru climbed onto the futon beside him, practically glued to his side. My son talked nonstop. About school. About the dear plushie. About how Papa works too hard, and Papa never buys things for himself, and Papa gets lonely when he thinks I'm not looking. I covered my face with my hand. Hikaru, please. But Norin only listened carefully, as if every word mattered. Once dinner ended, Hikaru grabbed Norin's hand. Santa, come see my drawings. Hikaru, I tried to intervene. Mr. Katsuragi has work. But Norin shook his head. It's fine. I want to see them. My heart stuttered. He wanted to. Not out of pity. Not out of duty. He wanted to. Hikaru dragged him to the bedroom and spread out his papers on the floor. Crayons, stickers, scribbled stars. All the chaos of a child's hope. Norin knelt beside him quietly. One drawing caught my eye. A simple picture of 3 figures. A tall one, a smaller one, and Hikaru in the middle. all holding hands under a Christmas tree. Hikaru pointed proudly. That's you, he told Norin. And Papa. And me. Norin's breath caught. Mine did too. Hikaru continued. I want us to be a family. A real family. So, Papa likes coffee a lot. And Papa reads sad books. And Papa needs warm socks because he never buys new ones. And Papa looks lonely when he cooks dinner by himself. Hikaru, I said, mortified. But the boy kept going, whispering loudly into Norin's ear. You should date him. I nearly choked on air. Norin blinked, and then, he actually laughed under his breath. A warm, quiet, beautiful sound that melted the entire room. I see, he murmured. You're a very determined matchmaker. Hikaru nodded fiercely. His eyes sparkled with pure hope. I want to have a daddy, he whispered. And I want Papa to have someone to hug at night. Something inside Norin shifted, visibly. He turned his gaze toward me. And the way he looked at me, God, it felt like he was seeing every part of me I tried to hide. Slowly, almost cautiously, he reached his hand out and touched Hikaru's hair. I'll keep that in mind, he whispered. My heart turned into a trembling mess. And somehow, Norin kept coming back. Some nights he helped with homework. Some evenings he brought dinner. Sometimes he just sat on the floor with us, drinking cheap tea as if it were the best thing in the world. And Hikaru. Oh, Hikaru. He became a full-time Cupid. He nudged our chairs closer. He forced us to sit beside each other. He held both our hands at the same time and said, See? You already look like a family. And Norin never pulled away. Not once. He grew gentler, warmer, closer. He asked me about my life, my dreams, the things I'd lost along the way. I didn't notice when it happened, but winter began feeling less cold. And every night Norin walked us home, my heart learned something dangerous and sweet. It was possible to want again. Snow fell softly, quiet and slow. Norin came to our door holding a small bouquet of winter flowers. For you, he said simply. My breath caught. Why? Because you deserve to be given something, he answered. At least once. Hikaru jumped excitedly. Papa, he brought flowers. That means he likes you. Hikaru. But Norin only smiled, then looked at me with a seriousness that made my pulse stop. Sora, he said. May I speak to you alone? Hikaru gasped dramatically. It's happening. Hikaru. I groaned. But Norin's gentle laugh settled into my bones. He led me to the small balcony overlooking the snow. The air was cold, but he stepped closer, warming the space around me. Sora, he began softly, these last weeks, I found something I didn't expect. I swallowed hard. He continued. I found myself looking forward to evenings, to laughter, to your son's drawings, to your voice, your presence. My heart shook. I never planned to get close to anyone, he said quietly. But you and Hikaru, you've become something I don't want to lose. He reached into his coat pocket. My breath froze. Norin? He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver band. Elegant. Warm. Steady. Like him. Hikaru peeked from the doorway, practically vibrating with excitement. Norin stepped closer, voice low and sincere. Sora Itsuki, would you let me stay? Not as your boss. Not as Santa. But as someone who loves you. And wants to build a family with you. With both of you. My eyes filled instantly. Norin, I whispered. I don't know if I. He took my trembling hand. You don't have to be perfect, he said. You just have to be you. That's all I want. Hikaru ran out, shouting. Papa, say yes. Say yes. Please. And in that moment, seeing my son's hopeful eyes, seeing Norin's steady love, feeling warmth where winter used to be, I knew the answer. Yes, I breathed. Yes, Norin. I want this. I want you. I want us. Hikaru squealed so loudly the neighbors probably heard. Norin pulled me into a careful embrace. Warm, grounding, safe. Then he bent to lift Hikaru, who wrapped his arms around both of us. Family hug, Hikaru demanded. And we laughed. All three of us. Together. For the first time, we felt whole. The sun rose over our little apartment, lighting up the tree Norin brought, the ornaments Hikaru made, the stockings he hung with clumsy pride. We opened presents. We cooked together. We told stories. We cuddled under blankets. And when midnight came, Norin kissed me softly, gently, with the warmth of a man who had been waiting for this moment far too long. Hikaru cheered in the background. Finally, we watched the fireworks from the balcony. Hikaru sat on Norin's shoulders, waving sparklers and yelling. We're a family now. A real family. Forever. Norin took my hand. Forever, he echoed, eyes warm on mine. As the fireworks painted the sky with gold and red, he leaned in and kissed me again. Soft, slow, certain. And in that moment, I knew. This was the happiest ending my heart had ever dared to imagine. Me, Hikaru, and the man who became our miracle. Our Christmas. Our home. Our future. Together. Always.